Welcome. If you're new, welcome. My name's Charlie. I'm a strength and conditioning coach mainly for field sports athletes, court-based athletes, things like that. But I'm also a just general training enthusiast, and I like getting big and strong and pushing the limits of my uh, body's physical capabilities. But we're just going to get into it. These are kind of the key points I have where I think you should or could improve on when it comes to growing your bench press strength essentially. So first of all, we're going to go over technique. Move you back up here now. We go over technique. Basically, why do you need to work on your technique? It just allows you to have a consistent bar path, a consistent setup every time, and your body will adapt eventually to this style of pressing, and it's just going to be easier and easier for you to make progress. We tend to be in the best position to bench when we're, or the most advantageous position to bench a lot of weight on the flat bench is to make the flat bench look like a decline press due to the angle that you're pressing at. I'm not saying you should adopt the Owen Hubbard kind of old style powerlifting arch. I don't think that's the best case scenario for most people, just due to the mobility demands and things like that. But I think a slight thoracic arch with some tightness in the upper back and lats is never a bad thing. It's always going to be a more advantageous way for you to press. I prefer to have most of my strength athletes adapt a smaller thoracic arch. This tends to not impact their lower back as much for their squat and deadlift work. For foot positioning, there's two types. I prefer a more extended shin angle, basically feet further out in front of you. It just allows for more upper back tightness and more consistency throughout the press, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. Another style that's more common on the kind of untested side, more like Instagram benchers, or just a lot of heavy benchers, that, don't get me wrong, use this more toe pressure, feet as close as possible to the bench. But if you're competing in powerlifting mainly in the IPF and things like that, you have to have a flat foot. Your heel has to be flat on the ground. So this is why I tend not to teach it, because the people I coach for strength sports tend to be on the tested IPF kind of side. Training age. If you're new to lifting, training age is just essentially how long you've been. I summarize it as how long you've been following a structured program for, because a lot of people get into the gym and they don't really know what they're doing. Yes, that obviously equates to your training age, but my personal opinion on it is your training age is your structured training age. Obviously, the longer you've trained, the more dialed in your technique tends to be. It just puts you in a better spot to improve your weight, because you can just be more consistent. But it also takes time to build musculature in the upper body, which, you've never seen a guy who benches a lot with small pecs, no matter their weight class or girl. You send, especially on the female side, the people, obviously bar super heavyweights, the women who bench press a lot, they are jacked as fuck, more than me and you are, for sure. Most people, your bench will improve as you get bigger. Getting bigger takes time. To body mass, the saying mass moves mass gets thrown around a lot, especially on super heavyweight videos of people benching and squatting and anything really. But it's true in a sense. Muscle mass tends to equal more muscle, which is a big driver for the bench press. The difference between you who benches say 140 or 315 and you who benches 180, 405 is the development around the pec and the shoulder and the tricep and how much muscle you have there. Because at the end of the day, it is a chest exercise, and there's a reason people have been doing it for however many years to be a chest exercise. It's fairly obvious to most people now that increasing your body mass will tend to be a big driver for the bench press. However, I am not saying, don't go off this video and say, right, he's just gone gigabulk to 120 and you'll magically bench press, say 180, 200 for the first time and blow all your PRs. That's not going to be the case. A slow, methodical, thought out gaining phase where you might add 1 to 2 kilos per block. Say you run a 4-week block, so you add 1 to 2 kilos a month, right? It will allow you to pack on more to your frame and help surround the main areas of the bench press, like we went over, your chest, tricep, shoulders, upper back, with more muscle mass that's going to support a bigger bench press. We move on to musculature. These are all kind of in the same bracket, but I like to talk over them because I think people, powerlifters, younger powerlifters, or just powerlifters in general actually, and people who genuinely train, like They tend to think if you just do more bench, you can be fine. You don't have to focus on anything else. But a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, and it's a bigger bench. Too many times you think that, like I said here, it's just frequency, which can be the case. Don't get me wrong. We'll talk about that in the programming section. But frequency is a big driver of bench press improvement. But if you want to take it far, I think you should take time to develop the mass required in your upper body to support your benching goals. That's just my opinion. I think it's easy, just chest, triceps, upper back, lats. Some overhead work in there is never a problem. Increased benching can take its toll on your upper body mobility and your shoulders. Obviously, you've all probably had some shoulder pain from benching before, especially in the front delt kind of region. So I find having that overhead work just once or twice a week, it's just helped me and the people I coach like mobilize their shoulders enough to keep them happy. Meat and potatoes of this actual video, this will be the longest part. That was just to ease people in programming your main bench work. This, I argue, is the biggest factor for improving your bench or just any lift in general, is how you program it. My programming style might look slightly differently from ones you've seen before. It might not, but this tends to be my default split for someone who's just come to me. I tend to go 2 to 3 times a week. I lean more to 3 times a week for the sake of this. We'll say 3 times a week, basically. RPE is what I tend to use. No, you don't have to. You can use percentage-based programming, but I find if you don't know what RPE is, it's your rate of perceived exertion. Basically, once you watch this video, click off. There's so many charts online now about RPE, but I tend to categorize RPE for bench is how many reps you think you could have done. Now, I know people say, well, that's reps in reserve, but I call it RPE. I also tend to use estimated 1 rep max for most of my programming. It's just a way to track progress across the block, but they also help me determine weights for back off sets, which I tend to like having at a higher RPE than top set, because the top set is just there for the stimulus. Say I've got a top single, double, triple, or whatever. That's just your heavy stimulus. You're not really gaining much in the way of like adaptation in that way. In a sense, you're adapting to the heavy load and your heavy stimulus, but the back off is more for the more meat and potatoes kind of benching that will be the big progress driver essentially. This is an example here. Top set of 6 at RPE 5.5, and then 2 sets of 5 at 77% of your E1RM. Say you do a set 140 for 6, that would put your E1RM about 165, 167.5, so 77% of that. It's just a higher intensity back off for less sets. But that's just my general programming philosophy around the bench, is that you can use lower volumes for the bench and then use accessories to fill that volume. And it tends to work for me, it tends to work for my clients, my athletes that I coach. But let's stay on this secondary day for a little bit. So say we're not squatting or deadlifting, we can fill the volume of the bench press with more accessory work to build our upper body. So it tends to be like this. So it'll be top set back offs, 2 to 3 sets. Rarely ever go over 3 sets of back offs. Sometimes I've done a 4x4, but I tend to find it's just you don't get the same buy-in off the athletes, which we'll talk about for the accessory portion of this video. Vertical pull tends to be a lat pull down variation, weighted chin up, pull up. If you can do weighted chin ups and pull ups, do them any day over the lat pull down. In my opinion, it's just more anabolic. It has more aura. You got to think about your accessories as having more aura. If you do a 2-plate weighted chin up or pull up, that's aura. Whereas if you're just doing a lat pull down, it's not as cool. There's not as much aura. There's not as much, you couldn't post your lat pull down and it wouldn't be as cool. You post your 2-plate chin up. So if you can do weighted calisthenics, like a chin up, pull up, neutral grip, wide grip, close grip, underhand grip, whatever you can lift the most weight on, that's fine. Now, if you're a bit bigger like me and some of my clients, we will go for the lat pull down for our vertical pull. Plate loaded machine, high to low lat pull down, whatever machines you've got. If you've got a machine you particularly like in your gym, use that. I tend to go for my accessories 2 to 3 sets. Mainly it's 2 sets. The progression scheme I like to use for the accessories, say we'll start week 1, we'll have a 2x8. Say we're doing T-bar row, we'll go 3 plates. So I put it down 60 kilos on my programming. Then the next week, you take that 60 kilos to failure, you get to 8. Not possible, you get another rep. You think, right, next week, oh, we'll up the weight. Wrong. 2 by 9, 2 by 10, 2 by 11, 2 by 12, whatever you want to do. I tend to jump from 2 by 10 to 2 by 12 just because I think it looks nicer doing 12 reps on 11. But that's just me. If you're running a 5-week block, it works even better. Progress the rep of your pulling movements is easier than progressing the weight, I found. And then the next block, all right, 2 by 8 again, but we're going to do 65 on the T-bar row or the chest supported row. Next block after that, we'll do 70, 75, 80. That's how you progress the weight. We would progress the reps, then the weight. Same with the vertical pull, lat pull down, 2 by 8, say at 70 kilos, depending on what machine you have, right? 2 by 9 next week, 2 by 10, 2 by 11, 2 by 12, week 3, 4, right? It just gives the athlete something to work for. They look at it and they go, right, I've got 2 sets at 0 RIR, 0 reps in reserve, 10 RPE, whatever you want to look at it, right? I need to get these 8 reps because I can't go, oh, I'll get 6 reps and then the next set I'll get 8 and then the next set maybe I'll get 10, right? If I've got 3 by 10, no, you've got 2 sets. It's more enjoyable. A lot of powerlifters spend a lot of time in the gym anyway, and they sandbag their accessories. So by giving them 2 hard sets to failure, you elicit more growth and they tend to enjoy it more. Pressing, I tend to like to go 2 to 3 sets. Obviously that just kind of contradicts what I've just said, but Swift machine, chest press, NutriGrip, dumbbell press, dips. Again, if you can do dips and you can do weighted dips, even if you can't, just do body weight. Just do as many reps as you can. Do a 2 by AMRAP, 3 by AMRAP on dips, and just feel the aura flowing through your muscles, right? Like feel how just elite of a human you are because you can do 30 unbroken fucking bodyweight dips, right? Something like that. Machine, I like incline. I tend to not lean towards so much flat pressing on a Smith machine just because we're benching anyway. So incline, chest press again, incline, flat, decline. If you've got all 3, switch it up every block. Do a block of high incline, do a block of flat, do a block of decline. Just get some chest press. NutriGrip dumbbell press, I like if you don't have a good chest press machine. So that's not dumbbells out here. We're here like this, like a NutriGrip, and we're bringing our elbow all the way down. Dumbbells going past our nipple. We're getting maximal range of motion. Because especially if you're benching with a relatively higher arch, we're going to flatten our back a lot on the dumbbell pressing, and we're going to just get as much range of motion as we can. Overhead work. Shoulder press, lateral raise, overhead press, Lou raises. Throw some fucking rear delt flies in there if you have to. Do you know what I mean? These are just things that I like to do once or twice a week. If you bench 3 times a week, maybe put it on each bench day as an accessory. You can switch it up. Lateral raises, do shoulder press on 2 days, and then a lat raise on one day, or 2 lat raises, 1 shoulder press. But if you don't want to do that and you just want to do the bare minimum, because that's the kind of guy you are, once a week, I would recommend seated standing Smith machine overhead press, because it's, again, a lot of you are going to have access to a barbell. Maybe you train at home, you don't have dumbbells or cables, bosh. Seated overhead press, standing overhead press, a push press even, behind the neck, whatever saves your, if you can't get in this position here, go behind the neck, easier pressing. Upper back, I like seated face pulls on the lat pull down. I stole that from Sam Sheether, who I think said he stole it from someone else, but I'm going to say I stole it from him. So I like to get a rope, or if you've got one of the fancy tricep extensions where they're looped, one of them, lean back on the lat pull down, bosh, bring it face pull, essentially. Chest supported row with a any grip, really. Obviously, the lower you hold it, the more lat it's going to be. So I tend to hold it a bit higher. Maybe elbows flared a bit more just for maximal upper back engagement. Barbell row, pendulum row, anything like that, basically. Rear delt flies. If you're benching 3 times a week, chuck it in there twice. Maybe chuck it in there twice as a chest supported row. So you have a T-bar row, which I think is a really good piece of equipment. You've got a T-bar row on your secondary day. You've got a vertical pull on your tertiary day or your 3rd day. And then you've got a seated face pull or a rear delt fly on your primary day. That's 2 upper back exercises. If you want to do your vertical pull twice a week as well, that's fine. add it on a day where your upper back work isn't the primary movement for your back, essentially. So say on that secondary day we've got the T-bar row, we won't be doing our weighted pull-ups and chin-ups because we want all of our energy on the T-bar row. But say on that tertiary day where all we've got is, say, seated face pulls, do your weighted chin-up or your weighted pull-up, you know. And then again, if you're just doing rear delt flies on your main day, do your weighted chin-up or weighted pull-up or lat pull down for, you know, a triple or higher reps or body weight or whatnot. Arms, triceps, biceps. Triceps, extensions, overhead, press downs, single arm. You know, I tend to train them 2 to 3 times a week. I'm benching 2 to 3 times a week. Biceps. A lot of people don't train their biceps for the bench press. 1, bigger biceps. Pretty cool. Just saying. 2, they help stabilize the bench more than you'd expect. I didn't train biceps for ages. 1, mainly because I found it boring. Then I actually trained them hard. Quite fun. But yeah, you're never gonna lose out by having big arms, essentially, is what I'm saying. Placement of these accessories in a session, we will go over to the spreadsheet now and I'll kind of explain that to you. This is our spreadsheet, I guess, right? This is our setup for my typical kind of 3 times a week bench setup, I guess. So I've obviously not added the other 2, squat, deadlift, on here, but they tend to be on this day and this day, not necessarily this day, which is why it might have more intense accessories on it. But say we go Monday, secondary day, comp bench, top set back off. Main priority of this day, upper back, T-bar row, heavy, 2 sets of 8, say 4 plates, if you're just fucking him. Some overhead work, some tricep push downs. I like the push downs for the elbow health. I like the overhead for the stretch I feel in them. Some athletes don't like overhead, and that's fine. So they get more extension work. But the triceps keep the elbows happy. The biceps keep the shoulders happy a lot of the time as well, because the range of motion you can get on a bicep curl, quite a nice stretch on the shoulder. If you didn't know, Thursday, tertiary day, tends to just be a bench focus day. Main focus here, last and press, because say we're deadlifting and squatting, say we've got an SBD on the Saturday, we don't want lower back fatigue going into that, so we take the leg drive out of it, last press. We go for our lower rep weighted pull-ups, so this could be anywhere from 3 to 6. I consider low rep. Some people say 5, I say 6. I like 6s anyway. I'd like to do top set, back off set for weighted calisthenics. That's just my powerlifting kind of opinion. If you want to do straight sets, that's fine. Say we do a 2x5 weighted pull-ups, 2 plates, because you're just fucking him, clearly, right? And we're going to our chest flies. Again, range of motion on the pec is important to keep it healthy. If you're benching with an arch, we tend to be reducing the range of motion, which is what we want. That's the whole point of the arch, right? But then use the chest fly to open up your pec, feel a stretch. I know people say don't feel stretch, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't fucking matter. You've watched my video, you're here for my opinions. My opinion is open up your fucking chest with the chest fly, right? Preacher curls, I like them. People don't. Overhead triceps, again, open up that upper back, open up that shoulder, really get a nice stretch on the tricep and push them. Primary day, say this is our SBD day, if you're looking at it from powerlifting perspective. If you're not, set it up like this. If you don't want to train legs at all, add another 2 days onto this. Top set, back of set. Gone for body weight, higher rep chin-ups as opposed to the pull-ups. Just get a bit more bicep work in there. Never bad having big arms. It's never bad having big arms. Neutral grip dumbbell bench. Again, just get some range of motion on the pecs, but in that flat pressing pattern. Rear delt fly. S-tier exercise for the upper back. S-tier exercise in general for rear delts, obviously, and some shoulder health. I've just thrown in 2 random arm exercises in here. I like hammer curls because they focus a bit more of the forearm if you bring them in on yourself. And again, forearms, good muscle to have a big one. No one's ever going to fuck with you, you've got big forearms. I like to throw in some single arm work for the triceps and the biceps because we do a lot of bilateral stuff as strength athletes, and I think we need to be doing more unilateral stuff. You don't have to steal these accessories. You don't have to steal this split. If you want to do 2 days a week, I'd recommend going Tuesday, Thursday, maybe Tuesday, Saturday. Thank you for listening to me yap. This is a passion. I love programming. I love strength training. So if you're interested in one-to-one coaching or programs, the link is below in the description, or go to my Instagram, see the people I've coached, see what I'm about. But yeah, that's really it for me. Thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next one.